At number 10, Karlie Kloss. The Met Gala is all about fashion, and those who attend the event are usually trying to pull off the best look that fits the theme for that year. There have been many extravagant looks and other more simplistic ones, but the overall point here is to try going along with the overall energy of the event. One person actually faced backlash for not really trying hard enough to meet the event standard, and that was Karlie Kloss, who people say ignored the 2019 Met Gala camp theme. Karlie showed up to the event looking a little too simple for the event, wearing a black and gold dress with simple jewelry, natural makeup, and a simple hairstyle. A lot of fans were seriously let down by her outfit that evening, especially after she tweeted about her look, hyping it up and saying, quote, "looking camp right in the eyes." As strange as it might sound, Karlie's fans got pretty upset that she didn't really follow the Met's theme and faced a pretty decent amount of criticism. She had to kind of apologize for her look shortly after, as she posted a video to her YouTube channel addressing the situation, saying that she should have tried harder. At number 9, Sarah Jessica Parker. Every year the Met Gala chooses a theme, and those who attend the event are urged to show up in some kind of couture that fits said theme. For a lot of celebrities, they either work alongside some designers to come up with the perfect look for the gala, but sometimes these looks can go too far and end up offending people in the process. Take for example some of the Met Gala looks from 2015. The theme of the gala that year was China through the looking glass, and a lot of people found that many of the stars who attended the event that night were appropriating Chinese culture. Among one of the most heavily criticized celebrities was Sarah Jessica Parker. At the event, Sarah wore a custom black gown with a large headpiece, and this bold accessory faced quite a lot of backlash. The headpiece was criticized for its quote dragon lady stereotype, something that sexualizes and villainizes Chinese women. A lot of fans made the point that these celebrities could have just worn pieces from Chinese designers to fit the theme rather than appropriate the culture. Now before I carry on talking about these cancelled celebrities, I'd first like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it, because it really helps the channel out. At number 8, Karolina Kakova. I just told you about one celebrity who faced backlash for cultural appropriation at the Met Gala, but I have another one to tell you about that actually happened on the same night. Since the theme for the 2015 Met Gala was China through the looking glass, a lot of people came dressed in altered versions of traditional Chinese garments, and it offended a lot of people. Another guest who got a lot of hate for their outfit that night was model Karolina Kakova, because she came in a sexualized version of a cheap how. Much like a lot of other celebrities who showed up that night, their looks faced a lot of backlash because normally these looks affect women from this culture negatively, and the double standard of these other people being praised was seen as hurtful and offensive. These garments have a history behind them, and so disrespecting this part of Chinese culture was also obviously not well received. At number 7, Madonna. In the past, there have been many scandalous looks at the Met Gala. Oftentimes, we see celebrities push the boundaries of fashion, and sometimes their looks can be very revealing, but it looks like one celebrity went too far with how revealing their Met look was one year, and that person is Madonna. The singer is known to be pretty bold, but at the 2016 Met Gala, people think that she was a little too bold because her look revealed quite a lot. When she hit the red carpet, Madonna was seen wearing a black bodysuit that revealed her chest and backside, worn underneath a lace overlay. She also wore leather thigh-high boots and a bejeweled headband and layered necklaces. After facing backlash for the fact that her chest was exposed, she supported the look by saying that it was a political statement. She clapped back at the criticism on her Instagram, where she said, quote, "We have fought and continue to fight for civil rights and gay rights around the world. When it comes to women's rights, we are still in the dark ages. My dress at the Met Ball was a political statement as well as a fashion statement. The fact that people actually believe a woman is not allowed to express her sexuality and be adventurous past a certain age is proof that we still live in an ageist and sexist society. I have never thought in a limited way, and I'm not going to start." At number 6, Amal Clooney. As I mentioned a little earlier, a lot of times celebrities work alongside designers to achieve their looks for the Met Gala. The relationships that these stars have with their designers is pretty important for their careers, and so they usually don't want to jeopardize that. But Amal Clooney did in 2018, and she got some backlash for it. When Amal first showed up to the event, she was dressed in an ensemble by Richard Quinn that consisted of navy pants, a silver top, and a floral skirt. But after doing a quick change, she re-emerged wearing a dress designed by Tom Ford. Apparently, Tom was furious that Amal didn't wear his design when she did her initial red carpet walk. It caused some drama in the fashion world, but from what I understand, it's all water under the bridge now. At number 5, Rihanna. Rihanna is one of those stars who people really look forward to seeing walk the red carpet at the Met Gala. She rocks every look that she presents at the gala, but one year, instead of getting praise for her outfit, she actually ended up getting a lot of backlash. In 2018, Rihanna showed up to the event wearing a very extravagant Pope-inspired look, and it did not go over well. The look was an ensemble by Margiela that consisted of a strapless mini dress, trench coat, and large headdress. That night, a lot of Catholics took issue with Rihanna's look, with some of them calling the ensemble, quote, sacrilegious religious and saying that it appropriated their religion. Ironically, this isn't the first time that the singer has been accused of appropriating religion. She's also faced backlash for appropriating Hindu culture as well, as earlier this year she was seen wearing a necklace with a Hindu god depicted on it, and she's also faced scrutiny after she used a controversial song with Islamic verses in it in her Fenty show. At number 4, Scarlett Johansson. At the 2018 Met Gala, actress Scarlett Johansson caused a bit of controversy for the dress that she wore to the event. Not because of what it looked like, but because of who designed it. The actress wore an off-the-shoulder dress with flower embellishments, and though it was a beautiful gown, a lot of people couldn't get past who made the garment. The dress was designed by Georgia Chapman, Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife. Scarlett's look came from Georgia's brand Marchesa, and the actress became one of the first people to support the brand and the designer after the allegations against Harvey Weinstein came out. People were torn over this because some people believe that Scarlett shouldn't have supported Georgia's design because of her ties to Weinstein, but others thought that it was a bit ridiculous because Georgia was never personally involved in any of the allegations, so some people didn't really think it mattered. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. At number 3, James Charles. YouTuber and influencer James Charles attended the Met Gala in 2019 and got some backlash for what he wore and for being a bit of a hypocrite as well. When he arrived at the event, James was wearing an outfit by Alexander Wang that consisted of a black bandana, black cargo pants, and a see-through shirt that was made entirely of safety pins. It was an interesting look, but after the event, fashion critics pointed out that James' look was very similar to one that Zoe Kravitz had worn to the 2019 Vanity Fair Oscar party. Ironically, James had made a video with Tana Mongeau where they criticized that very look, where they said that it looked like, quote, she didn't finish getting dressed. End quote. As expected, James faced backlash for the comments that he made about Zoe's outfit and for also copying the look and being a hypocrite by wearing something so similar to another look that he roasted. At number 2, Kim Kardashian. Kim K is always trying to serve looks at the Met. I mean, this year's look was a little questionable with her all-black Balenciaga ensemble that made her look like a Dementor, but that's besides the point. Every look is subject to criticisms, but the one look that brought Kim the most backlash was her dripping wet look from the Met Gala in 2019. At the event, Kim was seen wearing a Mugler dress that made it look like she had just walked out of water, but she was also wearing a mega corset that cinched her waist so much that she faced backlash for it. Kim is often facing scrutiny for her support of waist trainers, with people saying that it's affecting the way that young people are seeing beauty, so her super cinched look just added to that fire. Fans said that Kim's body looked super unrealistic and it wasn't a good thing to show the public, but she and the designer defended the look, saying that the over-the-top nature of the entire ensemble was just made to fit the event's camp theme. And finally, at number 1, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The most buzz that has come out of the 2021 Met Gala is coming from New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC showed up to the event wearing a white dress that had the words "Tax the Rich" written in red on the back. It was designed to be a political statement about the ongoing debate on whether the wealthiest people should be paying taxes like the rest of us peons, but instead of sparking the conversation about it, people are calling AOC a hypocrite for trying to make this statement at an event that is attended by Hollywood elites who pay 30 grand for a ticket. A lot of people may have takes on this, but what is yours? Do you think that AOC went about this statement all wrong, or was her bold move a good thing? I think that even though it's coming back to bite her, that bold move still accomplished something and it has people talking, so maybe it wasn't all bad.
Starting off this countdown at number 10 is no other than Kylie Jenner. It is known that Kylie Jenner takes a lot of pride and effort in her appearance and fashion, especially for any kind of event. But this costume did not hit the mark. In 2015, Kylie dressed up as an apparent Eskimo, or at least that is what she said in her Instagram caption. Not only is the word Eskimo considered a slur that is highly offensive, but many were also upset because Inuit and Alaska Natives are real people, not costumes. So Kylie's fans were not impressed by the costume, and the only publicity she was getting was very negative. After being slammed with all the negativity, Kylie was quick to change her Instagram caption to "Snow Princess" instead. But by the time she changed the caption, the damage was already done and many people were already very upset with her initial costume. You can't just change the caption after you already did the costume. Snow Princess! It's all she could come up with. Moving along at number 9 is Heidi Klum. The former model is known for her eccentric costumes every year and showing up to wow the crowd. And she usually does. I'm usually very impressed with her costumes. But her costume in 2008 was not a hit and more of a miss. This is because the celebrity dressed as Kali, the Hindu goddess of destruction. I hope I said that right. The costume consisted of her whole body being painted blue, a black wig, and a belt made of severed heads and hands. It was quite the sight. Though the celebrity was met with a ton of backlash as it was quite offensive to those who actually practice the religion. After her costume debut, the Hindu American leaders demanded an apology from Heidi with the claim that the goddess in the religion is to be worshipped in sacred temples, not for parties or for a publicity stunt. The former model responded saying that her assistant thought of the costume and that she gave her the okay to wear it. So she basically threw her assistant under the bus. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure what's worse, her costume or her response to the criticism. Like putting blame. I'm not letting anyone tell me what's okay to wear. You get the final say, Heidi! Moving along to number 8 is Ashley Tisdale. The family-friendly Disney star found her acting success in the High School Musical movies. That being said, she stirred up quite a bit of controversy when she appeared at Vanessa Hudgens' 2016 party in a Day of the Dead inspired look. Let's be clear, Day of the Dead and Halloween are not the same, and the Day of the Dead is a Mexican celebration to honor deceased relatives. Therefore, fans slammed Ashley for her costume being extremely racist and offensive to some people. Her costume got her accused of appropriating Mexican culture and sexualizing their event. Ashley's husband would later go on to defend his wife, but the damage was already done. So his defense didn't work. While it was cute, it didn't work. Swiping through the numbers on this countdown, at number 7 is Paris Hilton. Being in the headlines for Paris was a good thing, usually it is, up until the negativity from her 2010 Halloween costume skyrocketed. Paris found herself at a Halloween party at the Playboy Mansion, dressed up as she stated, a Native American. The costume featured a headdress, feathers, beads, and an animal skin bikini. Many were quick to call her out with the highly offensive costume, but Paris didn't seem to care. You would think from all the negative backlash and disrespect that people would stay far away from a costume like that, especially after her backlash, but that would not be the case for Paris's own sister, Nikki Hilton, as 5 years after her sister's inappropriate and controversial costume, Nikki decided to dress up in the exact same one. Seems like the Hilton sisters did not learn their lesson the first time around. You can probably assume that this again was met with a lot of backlash in the media when Nikki wore it, especially since her sister already made that mistake in the first place. Moving up the chart at number 6, we have Hilary Duff and her then boyfriend Jason Walsh. During the celebrity's time on Disney, Hilary had to keep a very squeaky clean image, but after transitioning out of her Disney stardom, she was able to make decisions for herself. But this costume decision should not have been worn out in public, as in 2016, the couple costume of choice for them was a pilgrim and a native chief. As soon as the pictures of the two started circling on social media, a lot of people were upset. Not only is the costume offensive in itself, but this was at the time that there were protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline that would go through sacred grounds. So everything that could have been wrong with this costume was wrong. Hilary eventually took to Twitter to apologize though for her couple's costume and said that she was deeply sorry to people that she offended and that she did not properly think it through. So she took accountability and she apologized. So stands for something, right? Up next at number 5, halfway through, we have Kate Hudson. The American actress and author is an award winner and has starred in some of the most romantic rom-coms as of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, if you remember that one, and Bride Wars. I love How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Random fact, you're gonna be like, what the hell? I based my prom dress off her yellow dress in that movie. Anyways, no one cares. Just thought I'd throw it out there. But Kate shocked many people for her costume in 2014 as Dr. Luke. The distasteful costume featured the singer in scrubs and a name tag that reads, Dr. Luke, Gynecology Department. But the person she was dressing up as was not a doctor. She was imitating Dr. Luke, the music producer that abused Kesha over a period of 10 years. At the time, Luke and Kesha were in the middle of their lawsuit, so the costume was very off-putting to fans and just seemed like an awful decision. The media took this by storm and criticized criticized her costume as it was very inappropriate for the time, and in general. It's possible though that her intentions for the costume were good to try and show her support for Kesha. However, if that was truly her intention, there are just better ways of showing your support. Taking our next spot at number 4, we have the American actor Colton Haynes. The celebrity is known for his outrageous and over-the-top Halloween costumes, but this one was not a fan favorite. For obvious reasons. Back in 2011, the actor wore blackface when dressing up as Kanye West, and he painted his whole body for the costume. The intention of going as Kanye West was not the problem, it was covering his whole body in dark brown paint. You would think Colton would learn from his past mistakes of controversial Halloween costumes, but that would not be the case. The following year, the actor dressed in blackface for a second time and painted his body for a Gandhi costume. Colton has since apologized for his controversial costumes and says that he was unaware that he was offending people with them and that it wasn't his intention. Making the very same mistake twice, like 2 years in a row, is pretty bad, and his career has just never been the same since then, to be honest, but I wonder why. Moving to our top 3 spots, at number 3 is the EDM duo the Chainsmokers. The music duo has produced Billboard-topping chart songs with artists like Justin Bieber, Coldplay, and Halsey. But the very popular musicians were met with backlash in 2014 after their, this is what it was called, Ebrola costume. Yes, you heard that right, Ebrola. I will explain. After performing at a university, the duo made their way to a fraternity after party where they showed up in a pretty controversial costume. The costume mocked the deadly disease Ebola, which at the time was a great epidemic in West Africa that had killed more than 5,000 people by that point. It's easy to say that their costume of a hazmat suit and fake mustaches of imitating health workers was pretty tone deaf during that time. Looking back on this controversy now in 2021, after going through a pandemic for the past 2 years, I don't think this costume would fly with anyone. I'm pretty sure people did stuff though in 2020 regarding the COVID costume thing. Quickly taking over number 2, we have Chris Brown. We all know that Chris is not new to controversial headlines and negative media coverage for good reasoning. But this incident would be one of the worst ones. In 2012, the singer showed up to a party hosted by Rihanna as a member of the Taliban. This costume shocked everyone on social media, especially because before the party, Chris tweeted a photo of himself and his friends dressed up with the caption, "Ain't nobody effing with my clique." Don't get me wrong, it's not totally surprising that Chris would do other offensive things like this. But it doesn't justify the blatant racism that was his costume. Fans of his were outraged, and to make matters worse, in an interview when he was questioned about the costume, instead of apologizing, he remorsefully said, "It's effing Halloween, get over it." Classy man. He's single, isn't he? I'm not surprised. Last but certainly not least, the number 1 spot on this countdown is going to Julianne Hough. This might not come as a surprise because in 2013, when Julianne dressed up in this costume, everyone on social media was talking about it for just how bad it is. People still talk about it. I mean, here I am. The Dancing with the Stars champion went out as the Orange is the New Black character, Crazy Eyes. Her costume was in very bad taste though, and landed her in major controversial headlines as the costume was blackface. Julianne and her friends all appeared to have gone as the cast of the show, but none of them seemed to think that Julianne's portrayal was offensive at the time that they were getting ready. Apparently, even actress Isla Fisher went up to Julianne at a party demanding that she go to the bathroom and wipe the makeup off her face. The actress who actually played the character on the show even talked about the controversy by saying the whole costume was a very unfortunate situation. After the incident, the backlash from the costume was so intense that Julianne came out with a statement saying that it was never her intention to be disrespectful and that she realizes now that her costume hurt and offended people, and this statement was followed with her apologizing. Thank God.
First up, we have Matt Damon. Now, I didn't know this story, but it is crazy. In an extremely odd tangent during an interview to promote his movie Stillwater, Matt Damon talked about using a homophobic word at dinner with his family. His daughter rightly intervened, leaving the table to write an essay to him about why using that particular word was wrong. Nobody was quite sure why in the year 2021 the Hollywood actor would still need that explained to him, but here we are. Our next celebrity is Ezra Miller. DC Studios saw Ezra Miller, aka comic book history's most problematic The Flash, plead guilty to 1-count misdemeanor unlawful trespass in a Vermont court. In exchange, the prosecution dropped felony burglary and larceny charges. The actor attributed their ongoing legal struggles as well as other terrible allegations to, quote, complex mental health issues. DC Studios has stood by them thus far and left the fate of the beloved character in purgatory for now. In April 2020, a video surfaced online of Ezra appearing to choke somebody at a bar in Iceland. A source later confirmed to Variety that the incident was, quote, a serious altercation at a bar, and that Miller was escorted off the premises as a result. 2 years after the incident, the woman from the clip shared her side of the story with Variety, saying that her banter with the actor about getting into a fight was meant as a joke, but her friend appeared to antagonize the situation when he told Ezra that he heard the actor did not want to fight. My friend didn't have to say that, she told the outlet. It was just a joke, obviously. But Ezra took that literally and got super mad and came running outside. Our next celebrity is Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen was written off of 2.5 Men following 8 years of playing Charlie Harper on the CBS sitcom. 2 months after Sheen was admitted to a rehab facility, the actor was fired due to his self-destructive behavior and offensive comments towards the show's producers. Here's how the network handled it. Ashton Kutcher was brought on as Walden Schmidt, who became the new comedic foil for Alan Harper. Sheen's character was revealed to have been hit by a subway train. The series finale, however, puts a new spin on Charlie Harper's absence from the show. The last episode depicts Charlie Sheen as a cartoon character who was kidnapped by his admirer, Rose. The scene takes a jab at Sheen's issues, turning his nose as a vacuum, inhaling a large pile of sugar. Interesting choice. Next up, we have Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey, who is set to play oil tycoon J. Paul Getty in Ridley Scott's 70s set thriller All the Money in the World, was let go from the film. In October, 2 months before All the Money in the World was scheduled to premiere, actor Anthony Rapp went public with accusations that Spacey had done some pretty bad stuff to him when Anthony was 14 years old. More than a dozen other men came forward with similar accusations against Spacey shortly afterwards. Spacey, who seemingly attempted to shield himself from criticism by coming out as gay, faced 3 separate legal cases from the accusations. All of these ended in Spacey's favor, were dismissed, or were dropped. How the studios handled it. To the extent that cancellation is a real thing, Spacey got thoroughly cancelled. He was fired from House of Cards, which proceeded with a 6th and final season without him, and he was fired from a biopic he was tapped to star in. For All the Money in the World, Ridley Scott reshot Spacey's scenes as Getty a month before its release, now with the much more age-appropriate Christopher Plummer in the role. Remarkably, the scenes only took 8 days to reshoot, and the film managed to hit its intended release date. Crazy. Our next cancelled actor is TJ Miller, and this one is so disappointing. I just watched TJ in 2016's Office Christmas Party movie. He's hilarious, but I guess he's not the best person in real life. TJ Miller, best known for starring in Silicon Valley in late 2017, also starring in the Emoji Movie, Miller was the subject of numerous public controversies, including accusations of transphobia by film critic Danielle Solzman. In April 2018, he got arrested after calling in a fake bomb threat while drunk on an Amtrak train. That's crazy. And later that year, he was accused of bullying behavior on the set of Silicon Valley by recurring actor Alice Wetterlund. How the studios handled it? Well, Miller left Silicon Valley in May before the accusations against him became public, but the actor had already filmed scenes for the blockbuster movie Deadpool 2 and recorded voice lines for the third How to Train Your Dragon movie. Deadpool 2 went ahead, but star Ryan Reynolds made it clear that TJ Miller would not return for future sequels. DreamWorks Animation, meanwhile, had Miller's role in The Hidden World overdubbed by another actor, Justin Rupel. Next up, we have Constance Wu. From movies like Crazy Rich Asians and Hustlers, Constance set her sights on becoming a prominent A-lister. But in 2019, things took a turn. Quote, so upset right now that I'm literally crying. Twitter was blowing up. Effing hell. These two were tweets from the actor Constance Wu after her ABC sitcom Fresh Off the Boat was renewed for a 6th season, and she did not seem happy about it. When one person told her, "Congrats on your renewal, great news," she tweeted back, "No, it's not." Constance even went as far to comment on the show's official Instagram account and wrote "dislike" on the post announcing the show's renewal. This was followed by intense backlash from fans and online commentators. People called her ungrateful for dismissing an opportunity that so many struggling actors would die for. They said her public dissatisfaction was a slap in the face to the cast and crew who worked on the show. They called her a diva. Jimmy Kimmel joked about her and this incident on his own show. Perez Hilton reported she was, quote, the most hated person on the set of Fresh Off the Boat, and journalist Yashir Ali even wrote in a since deleted tweet, quote, "Constance Wu's conduct today comes as no surprise to anybody who has worked with her in recent years. She has a reputation for being rude, petty, mean-spirited, and ungrateful." Actor Gemma Chan, who co-starred with Wu in Crazy Rich Asians, liked his tweet. She later clarified that she accidentally liked the tweet and said, "Anybody looking for drama? Sorry to disappoint." The tweet by Ali continues saying, "I remember going to a gala later that same month hosted by a major Asian American nonprofit with a predominantly Asian American audience, and one famous Asian American comedian on stage made a joke about Constance Wu's outbursts. Everybody in the room laughed. An insider on the set of Hustlers said she was a, quote, big diva and demanded her name be on the top of the call sheet." The movie Hustlers also saw another diva on set, Miss Jennifer Lopez. Last year, a viral TikTok trend where people told their J-Lo horror stories went viral, and some of the stories are actually crazy. One user said, "I served at a restaurant where J-Lo and Ben Affleck were eating. At the end of the meal, Ben put a $100 bill down as a tip for the waitress. As Jennifer was just about to leave, she grabbed the $100 bill and replaced it with $5. Another woman took to TikTok to claim that the Jenny from the Block singer is also rude to her drivers. The TikToker claimed her father once worked for a company that Lopez often hired to provide drivers, and said that her dad would refuse to drive J-Lo after hearing stories about her poor temperament. She alleged that J-Lo does not allow the drivers to look at her or talk to her, and that even if the driver looks through a rear view mirror, they could be subjected to a scolding from the diva celebrity. Lastly, she also allegedly has a peculiar rule: they cannot let her luggage touch the ground. Next up, we have Blake Lively. Users on Reddit shared their Blake Lively horror stories, and here is what one user said, quote, "My boyfriend works in the movie studios and concerts where we live and has done small to major movies and met some pretty big movie stars because of it. The worst person he's ever had to deal with was Blake Lively. He said she was the most entitled, snobbiest, and rudest person to ever deal with. She threw tantrums on set, and she treated literally every single person like a piece of crap except for the director." The cast of Jersey Shore also had some things to say about Blake Lively. While the cast was taking part in a segment called Revenge of the Shady Duck Phone on Andy Cohen's talk show, they were asked, "Who's the rudest celebrity you've ever interacted with?" While the cast didn't name names at first, Snooki blurted out Joy Behar, while Sammy and Dina said Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively were really rude to them, though they all had the highest praise for Queen Bee herself, Beyonce. Speaking of Ryan Reynolds, he is also known in Hollywood for being super nice to high-profile celebs, but not really anyone else lower on the totem pole, except for A-list star Salma Hayek. Hayek and Reynolds made an appearance on BBC Radio 1 to talk about their experience working together on the film Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. During the course of the conversation, the Mexican actor, who's known to have a strong Hispanic accent, revealed how Reynolds gave her a very hard time in one scene in which her character was trying to put on a British accent. Quote, "Reynolds traumatized me. He thought I was terrible with my British accent. I didn't think so. I thought I was a natural Brit, and I said to him, 'Ryan, does it sound good?' He said, 'Just give it up. It's 3 in the morning, I cannot help you with that. Do I look like a miracle worker?'" A user on Reddit also gave their thoughts on Ryan Reynolds, saying, quote, "He was a well-known a-hole on set and to people in general, which is why his career was fizzling out for a while. Hugh Jackman saved him. Apparently, he told him that he can't keep going like this or nobody will work with him anymore. He cleaned up his act, but somehow I can't help but feel that the a-hole is still there, under the whole persona he has going in public."
At number 10, toxic workplace. Allegations of a toxic work environment was the scandal that really started it all. There had been some buzz surrounding how Ellen treats others, whether that be guests on her show or employees, but things really started to pick up when real people started coming forward about how they were being treated while working at the Ellen Show. A number of former employees came forward to expose Ellen for being a horrible boss. Some people brought up how she would use racial microaggressions and how she would pick on each one of her employees. Actor Benjamin Simon came forward with 6 stories about Ellen that showed the world just how mean she really is and how disrespectful she is to her staff. Benjamin tweeted out about how Ellen reportedly has a quote, sensitive nose and requires everyone to chew gum before talking to her, and will also order people to go home and shower if she doesn't like the way you smell. He also added that Ellen would make a point of picking on a different employee every day, and that when she's in a bad mood, she gets staff members to come to her office and forces them to do comedy bits for her to cheer her up by laughing at them. Benjamin also said that if Ellen doesn't like the monologue that someone wrote for her that day, she will throw it on the floor, refusing to do it. These and countless other stories revealed to the public just how toxic things are over at the Ellen Show, and this first scandal marked the beginning of the comedian's downfall. At number 9, quarantine comments. In April last year, when everyone was stuck inside during the world's first COVID lockdown, a lot of people started working from home, including Ellen DeGeneres. The Ellen Show was being broadcast from her home, and on April 6th, during her opening monologue, Ellen made some comments about her quarantine experience that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. During the episode, Ellen compared her experience of staying in her home to being in jail, saying, quote, "One thing I've learned from being in quarantine is that this is like being in jail. It is what it is. It's mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone here is gay." These comments were not taken very well by the public, and the comedian faced a lot of backlash for comparing her experience of quarantining in her California mansion to living in incarceration, where COVID infections are already incredibly high. Her comments were seen as offensive to those currently living in incarceration because their lives are more greatly at risk because of the infection rates, and a lot of people interpreted her monologue as making fun of those who aren't as privileged to be living in a mansion like she is. At number 8, Hollywood mean streak. After Ellen was exposed for her toxic workplace environment, people started coming forward with their horror stories of the comedian. At first, former employees were jumping on the Ellen is over party trend, but soon some celebrities started commenting on their experiences with Ellen, and a lot of them reminded the public that Ellen's bad attitude isn't anything new. For years, celebrities have known about Ellen's Hollywood mean streak, and some of them have come forward to expose her. Fellow comedian Kathy Griffin has been very outspoken about Ellen's mean streak and even wrote about it in her book, Kathy Griffin's Celebrity Run-Ins, My A to Z Index. In her book, she dished about some awful run-ins that she's had with Ellen, detailing some of the mean things she's done to her. In the book, she wrote, quote, "I can't prove it, but this person who has short blonde hair has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." But it's not just Kathy who says Ellen's mean streak has been common knowledge, as comedian Brad Garrett also chimed in to speak his truth about who Ellen really is behind the scenes. After Ellen issued an apology to her staff members, which we will talk about later, some people weren't buying into this declaration, including Brad Garrett. In response to Ellen's apology, he tweeted saying, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top, at the Ellen Show. No more than one were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." Maybe he was speaking from experience having worked in the same industry as her, or because he had been a guest on her show a few times in the mid-2000s. The fact that he and Kathy, as well as a few other celebrities, called Ellen's mean streak common knowledge really helped prove that it's not just her employees who've had bad experiences with her. At number 7, lockdown layoffs. During the first lockdown the world experienced last spring, there were a lot of changes in many workplaces. Some people were transitioning to working from home, and many others sadly lost their jobs. This was a very uncertain time for a lot of people, including many Ellen Show employees, because of a huge lack in communication. Shortly after the show made their transition from the studio to home, news came out reporting about how Ellen Show employees had been replaced by non-union workers in order to cut down on the cost of paying their other employees. As a result, a lot of employees were left in the dark and without pay for a few weeks, which just angered more people and made Ellen look worse. At this point, she was not only experiencing backlash for being a bully towards her employees, but also for causing layoffs as well as pay deductions. At number 6, racial injustice tweet. At the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, many celebrities were coming forward to talk about the racial injustices many Black people around the world have been facing. Some of them tweeted about it, others went to protest, but overall, most of them tried to do their part by spreading awareness. Ellen tried to do this, but it didn't go over very well, as many people thought she missed the mark with her BLM tweet. In her later deleted tweet about racial injustice, Ellen said, quote, "Like so many of you, I am angry, I am sad. People of color in this country have faced injustice for far too long. For things to change, we must change. We must commit ourselves to this change with conviction and love." A lot of people didn't like how she used the term people of color instead of just saying black people, as the movement was surrounding the racism that black people have endured and continue to endure. After deleting the post, Ellen corrected herself by issuing another tweet showing her support for the Black Lives Matter protests and also pledging to donate to a handful of charities and organizations. At number 5, privilege. While people were still discussing how Ellen was really behind the scenes, the theme of privilege came up and a lot of people called her out for it. After her tone-deaf joke about comparing life in quarantine to life in incarceration, people kept looking for more examples of how she lives such a privileged life. And one person came forward with an example that shocked a lot of people. Back in May last year, a former Ellen Show producer spoke out about how Ellen once called Steve Jobs personally to complain about the font size on the iPhone. This came after Ellen lost her glasses and was having trouble reading the text on her phone. The former producer recalled the incident saying, quote, "She stopped everything and made a call. Next thing we know, we literally hear Steve Jobs pick up and say, 'Hi, Ellen.'" Ellen told him the iPhone should have bigger font. He continues saying, quote, "That's her. It's not that she's some demon, she just lives in an incredibly privileged bubble and is out of touch with the real world." At number 4, apology fail. Following all the backlash that she'd been receiving, when The Ellen Show made its return after a quarantine hiatus, Ellen had to make amends for her actions and had to address some of the allegations against her, like misconduct and workplace toxicity. During her opening monologue, the comedian issued an apology for the things that she'd been accused of, but it didn't really go over well with her audience. During her apology, Ellen admitted that she was, quote, "a work in progress," and that she wasn't aware of the negativity in her workplace. Ellen also joked that she isn't a good enough actress to, quote, "come out here every day for 17 years and fool you." People didn't like how she mostly deflected and made jokes about the situation she was caught in, rather than owning up to her actions, which really just made her look worse in the public's eye and added to her growing criticism. At number 3, Nikki Tutorials interview. One of the instances that was sort of the fuel for this Ellen is over party fire was YouTuber Nikki Tutorials' testimony about how she was treated after she was invited on the show in January last year. During an interview in March of last year, Nikki spoke out about the atmosphere at The Ellen Show, saying, quote, "The friendly, welcoming atmosphere you see when watching Ellen isn't the reality in the studio." Nikki said that she was expecting a warm welcome when arriving at the studio, but that she was instead, quote, "greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked." Nikki also told sources that she didn't receive the same VIP treatment as everyone else, saying that she couldn't even use the bathroom closest to her because it was reserved for the Jonas Brothers, who were also on the show that day. She also commented on Ellen's personality, saying that she was very cold and distant when the cameras were off, making for a very different vibe on the show. This was a very different response than people were expecting, so this became big news, which later escalated into a much bigger scandal. At number 2, Dakota Johnson interview. The other incident many people think of as the beginning of the Ellen is Over party comes from actress Dakota Johnson's 2019 interview with the comedian. During the interview, Ellen berated Dakota about the fact that she wasn't invited to Dakota's birthday party, and many people saw this whole debate as incredibly unnecessary and uncalled for. Dakota stood her ground during the interview, shutting Ellen down and not being made to look like the bad guy like Ellen intended, but this also showed how Ellen can sometimes go too far. Fans didn't like the way that the actress was treated during her time on the show, and after Ellen was canceled, some saw this as justice for Dakota because Ellen was no longer able to get away with behaving like this. And finally, at number 1, Twitter. At the height of Ellen's cancellation, podcaster Kevin T. Porter sent out a tweet asking for people to share their horror stories about the comedian, and he said that he would make a $2 donation to a food bank for every insane story he received. Because of this tweet, a lot of people came forward talking about their bad experiences with Ellen, and this really added most of the heat to Ellen's growing fire. It wasn't just former employees and celebrities who came forward either. Fans and other people who have encountered Ellen off camera were also coming forward to recount some of their horrible experiences with her. Because of the amount of people who tweeted in response to this prompt, it caused this scandal to grow bigger and bigger, painting Ellen to look more and more like a villain, as news sources started picking up on the biggest and most outrageous stories to report on. Kevin's tweet received 2,800 replies, along with over 17,000 retweets and over 70,000 likes. This tweet blew up and made the scandal erupt to become even bigger than anyone thought it would and caused immeasurable damage to Ellen's career. If it wasn't for this massive attention this tweet got, Ellen's career might not have been as damaged as it is now.
In at number 10, Joel McHale. Joel McHale garnered a decent-sized fanbase from starring in the show Community and hosting talk shows like The Soup, which was eventually transitioned into The Joel McHale Show. The show was a Netflix comedy web series that started in February of 2018 and featured Joel giving his sharp, absurdist opinion on pop culture and news from across the globe. Each episode would be developed in the week prior so that all of the content included could be topical and relevant. When it came to the cancellation of The Joel McHale Show, it had nothing to do with a controversy or issues working with Joel. Unfortunately, Netflix had ordered 6 additional episodes of the series, which were released simultaneously 2 months later, but just a month after that they had to cancel the show. When Joel came on SiriusXM with Jim Norton and Sam Roberts, he told them that Netflix pulled the plug because they didn't like his sweaters. He then laughed off that comment and said that Netflix had trained their audience to binge watch and they tried that with his show, but it just didn't work. Ultimately, Netflix canceled the show due to low viewership. In at number 9, Peyton Kennedy. Peyton Kennedy was the star of the show on Netflix called Everything Sucks. This was a comedy drama web series created by Ben York Jones and Michael Mohan that was meant to be a parody of teen culture in the mid-1990s. Ironically, it took place in the real-life town of Boring, Oregon, and unfortunately for the cast and crew, Netflix viewers found the show, well, boring. After just 1 season, Netflix announced that they would be canceling the show, and I'm only using Peyton's name as the placeholder for the show's cancellation, but luckily Netflix was able to fit her into a different show. Following the cancellation of this new Netflix show, Peyton went on to act in the show Grey's Anatomy as the character Betty Nelson. She only did 12 episodes with the show, but that's still 2 more than the show Everything Sucks. In number 8, Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates was the star of a Netflix comedy series called Disjointed. It was all about Ruth Feldman, who spent decades advocating for legalized cannabis use. Upon California legalizing it, she starts her own dispensary and begins to navigate the highs and lows of that business. The show ran into some trouble when trying to stream in other countries where recreational marijuana and even medical marijuana is still illegal. The odd thing with Netflix canceling this show altogether was that at the root of its production was the prolific producer Chuck Lorre. Unfortunately, the show ran for 20 episodes before low viewership and bad ratings led to Netflix canceling it altogether. In at number 7, Naomi Watts. Gypsy was a psychological thriller and web series created by Lisa Rubin for Netflix and had Naomi Watts starring as Jean Holloway, a PhD in clinical psychologist based out of NYC. In the show, her character begins to overstep personal and professional boundaries as she begins to develop relationships with people close to her patients. The show had a 10-episode run on Netflix, but according to Rotten Tomatoes, it only received a 38% rating based on 40 reviews. The critics' consensus stated that Gypsy was a ludicrous plot that trudges along as it drags its talented cast with it. The show marked 2-time Oscar nominee Naomi Watts' first starring TV series role, but when it came to renew the show, Netflix ultimately passed on it. When it came down to it, Netflix had to pick between renewing the women's wrestling comedy show called Glow or picking Gypsy up again, and so they settled with continuing Glow and thus canceling Naomi Watts. In at number 6, Drew Barrymore. The show Santa Clarita Diet was one of the last things that Drew Barrymore had actually starred in. The show was a horror comedy web series created by Victor Fresco for Netflix. Fresco was the showrunner and executive producer alongside Barrymore. It was a single cam show that premiered in February of 2017 and generally received positive reviews. In the show, Drew's character undergoes a bizarre metamorphosis where she basically becomes a zombie that craves human flesh. Her husband and kids then basically have to help her deal with this as their mother constantly has to refrain herself from eating the neighbors. Cindy Holland, who is the head of original content at Netflix, said during a conference that when they invest into a show, they decide how much to invest based on the audience that shows up. If the audience isn't showing up, they begin to question if they should be investing more into it. In the case of Santa Clarita Diet, Holland felt that there was no viable reason to keep pumping more money into it, and thus it was cancelled. In at number 5, Britt Marling. The OA debuted in 2016, and it was really because of the hard work that Britt Marling put into it. She first rose to prominence after starring in several films that premiered at the Sundance Festival, but following that she wanted to cast herself into a show that she actually enjoyed. As a result of that desire, she wrote the series and pitched it to Netflix. With the creator of the show also taking on the lead role, it received mass praise from Netflix viewers. As the show continued into its second season though, the effects, like special effects if you will, began to get bigger and bigger. And the beauty of the first season was that it just seemed to be fairly low budget, but the second season proved just how much you can do if Netflix believes in your show. Unfortunately, the viewership though was just not there for the second season, and then on top of that, network executives had decided that the show was just too big of a creative swing to attract new viewers, which is another thing that they have to always be keeping on their mind. Netflix wants people that will binge watch their content, and they want to promote TV shows that will make someone want to subscribe to the platform. Unfortunately, because Britt Marling lacked the star power and still cost them tons of money, the show was cut short. In at number 4, Hassan Minhaj. The Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj was a comedy talk show that premiered in 2018 and ran until June 28, 2020. The show had won an Emmy, a Peabody Award, and 2 Webby Awards before Netflix canceled the series after 6 seasons. Unfortunately, Netflix realized that despite rave reviews from critics, all of their talk shows were just not doing well. Hence the reason Michelle Wolf and Joel McHale both had their shows canceled as well. In response to finding out the news, Hassan tweeted, "What a run, Patriot Act has come to an end. I got to work with the best writers, producers, researchers, and animators in the game. My 2 babies were born and grew up with the show. Thank you to Netflix and everyone who watched. Now it's time to return those screens to Best Buy." Despite Netflix believing that this was the right move, there were hundreds of comments saying that they were going to cancel their subscriptions, so who knows, maybe we will see the show coming back. Hashtag uncancel Patriot Act. In at number 3, Chris D'Elia. Chris D'Elia was cancelled because he had been accused of grooming and attempting to solicit nude photographs from underage girls. A woman named Simone tweeted out a screenshot of her alleged interactions with Chris, which began a thread of other women sharing their interactions with him as well. The stories were all pretty horrific considering that they were all allegedly underage at the time that Chris had sent these messages to them. However, in response to having his name dragged through the mud online, Chris told TMZ, "I know I have said and done things that might have offended people during my career, but I have never knowingly pursued any underage women at any point." Chris then goes on to say, "All of my relationships have been both legal and consensual, and I have never met or exchanged any appropriate photos with the people who have tweeted about me." Regardless, Netflix decided to scrap the plans that they had for Chris to be the star of a new prank show on the platform. In at number 2, Danny Masterson. Danny, who is best known for his role as Hyde on That 70s Show, was recently charged with 3 counts of rape. So far, there have been 3 victims that have stepped forward with separate incidents that occurred between 2001 and 2003. All the alleged crimes are believed to have taken place at his home in the Hollywood Hills. If convicted, he's looking at a sentence of 45 years to life in a state prison. For those of you who don't know, Danny is also involved with the Church of Scientology. After the charges were laid against him, Leah Remini took to Twitter with joy that the victims of Scientology were finally being heard. This is most definitely an insinuation that the church had previously covered up what Danny had been doing in order to protect their image. Although we cannot confirm these claims, it does seem like something they would do. Back in 2017 though, he was also fired from the Netflix show called The Ranch amid these allegations. Last but certainly not least, our number 1 spot, Kevin Spacey. Kevin used to be a highly sought after actor and by far one of the most demanded performers of his generation. However, after a fellow actor named Anthony Rapp bravely came forward during the Me Too movement to accuse Spacey of forcing himself upon Rapp when he was only 14 years old. Following that, 15 other men came forward and accused Kevin of similar crimes, which led to his character being written off of the Netflix show House of Cards. Kevin then made the situation worse for himself by declaring that he was part of the LGBTQ community, for which they denied any association. Even if he was part of that community, it still didn't excuse his very inappropriate behavior with a minor, and Netflix wanted to distance themselves as far away as possible from Kevin Spacey.
So starting off our list today in the number 10 spot, we have Meta, Layoffs. The daytime Emmy Award winning series Red Table talk show hosted by Jada and her daughter and her mother has been cancelled. The news would come just after Meta started shutting down all of its Facebook Watch original programs. And Red Table talk show would be the last remaining show to be cancelled. With the show being produced by Jada and Will Smith's production company, the Westbrook Studios, Red Table Talk is a show that tackles current social and cultural issues from intergenerational lenses. The news of the cancellation would come after the departure of Mina Lafave, head of development and programming at Meta, amid the layoffs that affected more than 20,000 of the company's employees. However, the show's cancellation doesn't come as a big surprise, as back in 2020, Facebook started scaling back its original scripted programming after removing Sorry for Your Losses and Limetown. With Facebook pulling away from their originals so they can move into a different direction and focus more on users generating content. And Westbrook Studios is now reportedly shopping for a new distributor for the series now that their deal with Facebook has ended. Number 9, Lies. When it comes to the Red Table talk show, it has been really hard for fans to connect to the show and the show's main host, Jada Pinkett Smith. And this has been a real issue for the show, as fans are just having a problem when it comes to believing what is actually coming out of her mouth. As on more than one occasion, some of the things Jada has brought up on her show has had fans calling her out on her lies. With the actor lying about more than one thing on multiple occasions, it makes us wonder if there has been any truth to any of her stories or with any of her guest stories. With Jada lying about almost everything from the exact details about what happened with her
affair on Will Smith, her alopecia condition, and her racial bias towards blonde white women, it has had fans and viewers for years calling out the star for not being completely honest with her audience. With the talk show mainly relying on having a good connection base with its fans, it just seems like the lies aren't keeping the viewers interested any longer. Hey, what's up my little sparkles? Are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never have to miss out on what I might just cover next. So coming back to our list, in the number 8 spot we have moving platforms. With the Red Table Talk being cancelled on Wednesday by Meta, according to The Wrap, the series had completed all of its planned content, but it wasn't invited back to create more as Meta is trying to move in a new direction. With Jada Pinkett Smith's show being the last of the Facebook Watch originals, it has now also fallen to the axe. With the show premiering on May 7, 2018, it has often been responsible for causing shockwaves on the internet, as the Hot Topic episodes and the overall content covered were emotional, controversial, or NSFW topics, all while featuring some pretty big celebrity faces. With some fans being upset that the show has now been cancelled, don't give your hopes up just yet, as it's been said the Red Table Talk Show is reportedly looking for a new home, so we could see the show show up on YouTube, Instagram, or even a television network, as the show's production company Westbrook, which happens to be owned by Jada and Will Smith, is reportedly shopping so they can have the series appear elsewhere, in the hopes that they can continue on air with their platform. Number 7. Embarrassed Will Smith. If there's one thing that's true when it comes to the Red Table Talk Show, it's that Jada has a knack for publicly embarrassing Will Smith on the show, as she has done it multiple times in the past, and it's really hard to tell at this point if the actress is doing it on purpose or not. Jada has used the show not only to discuss her feelings about Tupac, mocking a party Will threw for her, and the entanglement, but she also used the platform, which she hosted with her mother and daughter, to reveal some details about her family and marriage on podcast episodes. In one episode, she would find herself being heavily criticized by the public after she invited Gwyneth Paltrow on the show, so the two could have a conversation about intimacy. In the episode, Jada would start to talk about her and Will's love life, and she wasn't really afraid to bring up some issues they had, specifically about how she used to expect that Will could just read her mind and figure out everything she liked in the bedroom, and that she wasn't satisfied when it came to her relationship with him. It just seems like Facebook and the world is just done seeing Will's name being dragged through the mud, and this may be why Meta is looking to branch out in a different direction and canceled their show. Number 6. August Alsina. With Jada also speaking very candidly when it comes to her marriage with Will Smith, she's also even sparked a meme to come after it on her serious emotional talk show. The meme is a screenshot from an episode in which Will and Jada are both discussing their long-term relationship. They even went on to reveal that they had separated for a short amount of time in 2015, and that during this time is when both entered into a so-called entanglement period with other people. They also touched base on the claims made by August Alsina after he came out to say that he had an affair with Jada. The topic of Will crying then started to become a trending topic on Twitter, with a mixed crowd of users using it as a reaction-style meme in a humorous way, with others expressing their outrage at his mental health becoming a joke. Jada personally would then become questioned in the process, as people couldn't believe that she would cheat on her husband with her son Jaden Smith's best friend. People also started to question what kind of mentoring she was giving August, that left him feeling like he gave his all to their relationship just to be left feeling like he was destroyed. Number 5. Too much Smith family info. When it comes to the Red Table Talk Show, it just seems like Jada gives us all a little too much information about her family's personal lives. The show has literally become one of the weirdest talk shows we have ever seen, and it's not really weird in a good way. With the show possibly being one of the easiest paychecks anyone could ever get in their life, the family has been known to sit in a circle at their house and choose topics to talk about until they run out of time. And during this time, Jada would also reveal all of her family's dirty laundry, and some conversations became seriously disturbing to watch, like the time she dove into the conversation about the birds and the bees and talked about Willow and Jaden's first time and how she knew everything about it. The whole thing just had us questioning if we were watching an episode of The Kardashians or a talk show. But seriously, there were were just so many moments that had us all questioning what was going on, and a lot of times we were even questioning what Jada's real motive was. There's just something about a mother that she should never discuss about her children in public, and this was one of those moments. Number 4, substance issues. When it comes to the topic of narcotics, a lot of channels use the conversation as a trigger word, and they demonetize the video. So the fact that Jada used the Red Table Talk to talk about her past struggles with substances probably didn't sit well with Facebook or Meta. With the actress calling herself a walking miracle after she sat down with her mother and daughter to discuss the dangers of increased alcohol use in women, she would go on to paint a not so pretty picture of herself, after she pretty much labeled herself to be a wild party child back in the day. With the actor admitting that she used to mix both substances and alcohol together, she never considered that the move would cause potential health scares later on in life. She just wanted the feeling to continue, so when she wasn't reaching the same place as she used to when she was younger, she started doubling up on more just so she could keep going. Eventually, the actor would note that she had a wake-up call when she passed out on the set of The Nutty Professor in 1996. But Jada being so open about the controversial topic scared Meta because they didn't know what other conversation she would have that could push the boundaries and demonetize the videos. Number 3, the Oscars incident. With many topics being covered on Jada's show, including Will's infamous Oscar slap, in which he stormed on the stage after Chris Rock made a poorly received joke about Jada's hair loss, and because Jada used her platform to bring light to the situation, she received a lot of heat over the incident. With Jada starting off the series to say, "This is a really important Red Table Talk on alopecia. Considering what I've been through with my own health and what happened at the Oscars, thousands have reached out to me with their own stories." The Matrix star then went on to discuss the Oscar slap, admitting she hopes both Will and Chris will have the opportunity to heal from their altercation. She then further went on to say, "The state of the world today, we need them both, and we all actually need one another more than ever. Until then, Will and I are continuing to do what we have done for the last 28 years, and that's keep figuring out this thing called life together. Thank you for listening." It just seems like there was a time and a place to address this incident, and it really should have been done after Will was finished healing. And the incident shouldn't have been used to bring in more views to the channel. Number 2, views plummet. It seems like canceled celebrities will need to find a new platform for their apology tours, as the Red Table Talk show hosted by Jada Pinkett Smith was scrapped by Facebook on Wednesday. With the series being the last Facebook Watch original with a completed final season, it won't be returning to the air. Well, at least not on Facebook. With the show being popular and a staple for many other celebrity social media talk show channels, even though the series started off with some great numbers, over time viewers really started to tune out, and they only started to tune into the show when something big would happen, like Jada talking about her entanglement, or when she decided to bring Jordan Woods onto the channel to talk about her affair with Tristan Thompson, or when she decided to talk about the infamous Oscar slap. With the Red Table Talk show hosting some of the most iconic moments in pop culture history, it seems like only some of those moments only brought in a lot of views, as people really weren't interested in the show unless it revealed that more drama was going to be revealed. And over the time, because of this, the show's views just started to plummet. And coming in on our list today at number 1, we have Not Relevant. After having a promising breakout performance as Maureen in the Scream franchise, Jada's career looked like it was heading in the right direction. However, the momentum would stall in 1998 after she nabbed the lead role in the movie Wu, a film Variety described as a graceless, unfunny comedy that brings out the worst in just about everybody involved in it. In the years to follow, Jada would also land a few supporting roles in a few well-received films, but since her role in Scream, her record with critics has been spotty at best. Despite her best efforts, studios haven't really been keen on casting her as a lead lady, and the only really meaty role she's been able to sink into her teeth recently has been on television playing Fish Mooney in Fox's DC crime series Gotham. But even then, she hasn't done really anything impressive on the show, and it shows that Jada Pinkett Smith isn't really relevant anymore, and it could be the reason why Facebook is choosing to cancel her series.
Conor McGregor, a name that lit up the world of combat sports like a firework. McGregor was divisive, no question about it, but love him or hate him, his ascent was nothing short of spectacular. The spotlight shone so bright it led him straight to a blockbuster bout with none other than Floyd Mayweather. The buildup was classic, Conor's verbal sparring match where no punches were pulled. But as the bout drew closer, something shifted. The sharp wit that had catapulted McGregor to stardom seemed to dim. When he finally stepped into the ring with Mayweather, it wasn't just a fight, it was the end of an era. Mayweather shattered the invincible image Conor had crafted. The climactic showdown with Khabib was more than a fight, and McGregor returned not to the cheer of charm but to the echoes of animosity. The exhibition was striking, yet it peeled back the layers we hadn't seen before. That night, humiliation was served cold, and the world watched as the notorious icon spiraled into chaos. He got humiliated badly, and everything went wild. Before the era of social media dominated headlines, one female star shone the brightest on the world stage: Whitney Houston. She wasn't just a celebrated singer, she was an icon holding an incredible record for 7 straight #1 hits on the Billboard Top 100. With over 200 million records sold and notching up 28 Guinness World Records, Whitney was, without question, a musical juggernaut. The only other star who could match her level of fame was the legendary Michael Jackson, but from 2000 to 2005, Whitney's life took a tragic turn. Her tumultuous marriage to Bobby Brown, a harrowing struggle with addiction, and the chaos of her reality TV show wreaked havoc on her illustrious career. And despite a valiant attempt to rise again with a world tour in 2009 to 2010, audiences witnessed a starkly different Whitney. The once undeniably flawless voice struggled to reach high notes, the range had dimmed, and numerous performances, including a particularly infamous one in Australia, were marred by delays and vocal issues. Disappointment filled the air as many shows plummeted into disarray, leading to an overwhelming consensus that her comeback tour was unsuccessful. Despite further attempts to regain her status, Whitney never reclaimed the once effortless pinnacle of her career. Her precipitous decline remains one of the most poignant examples of a superstar's fall from grace in the music industry. Aaron Hernandez, a former tight end for the New England Patriots, stood at the precipice of a gleaming career in the NFL. Flush with success, he was newly signed to a promising contract, his future in the league all but assured. Tragically, a series of life-altering decisions led him down a dark path that shocked the nation. Hernandez was convicted of ending the life of his friend, and in the midst of attempting to overturn his sentence, he ultimately took his own life. The shadowy tale of a star fallen from grace is a stark reminder of how quickly a life can unravel, leaving more questions than answers in its wake. Aaron's story is not an isolated incident. Many other professional athletes have experienced similar downward spirals due to a variety of factors such as fame, pressure to perform, and personal struggles. Next up, Kurt Cobain. For a short period, Nirvana rose to immense fame, becoming one of the most significant rock bands globally. However, Kurt struggled with the spotlight and grappled with personal battles, including substance abuse. Nirvana's '92 Reading Festival appearance is etched in history as one of rock's finest live shows. In Utero, released in early '93, soared to the top despite being initially deemed non-viable by the label and facing backlash from retailers over controversial content. Their raw and haunting MTV Unplugged performance in November '93 was uncertain until the very last due to Cobain's dependency struggles. Sadly, in March '94, after a purposeful overdose and a fleeting stint in rehab, Cobain's life ended tragically. Despite its brief existence, less than 7 years, with a limited discography including major labels, albums, the band's impact was seismic, selling over 75 million records. It's a stark tale of rapid ascension against a dark downward spiral. Amanda Bynes, once the quintessential girl next door with a sparkling presence in numerous teen movies, faced a tumultuous journey that led her from the pinnacle of Hollywood success to personal struggles with addiction and a highly publicized conservatorship. Her story is one that reflects both the pressures of fame and the resilience it takes to confront personal demons under the relentless scrutiny of the public eye. Amanda Bynes rose to stardom at a young age with her breakout role on the sketch comedy show All That, and later starring in her own hit sitcom, The Amanda Show. She quickly became known for her comedic talent and charm, captivating audiences with her infectious energy. Her success only continued to grow as she landed leading roles in popular films such as What a Girl Wants and She's the Man. But as her star continued to rise, so did the pressure and expectations placed upon her. In 2010, Bynes announced her retirement from acting at just 24 years old, citing a desire to pursue fashion design instead. However, that decision version was met with skepticism and criticism from the media and fans alike who viewed it as a sign of her unraveling mental state. Next, we're dissecting the extraordinary fall from grace of a once revered icon, O.J. Simpson. It was a downfall that truly blindsided the public. Once celebrated as an exceptional athlete, O.J. Simpson's transition to a life overshadowed by legal controversies took the world aback. But beyond the spotlight and brand deals, there lay a turbulent story waiting to unravel. This infamous trial shed light on the flaws within the criminal justice system and raised questions about privilege and celebrity status. The O.J. Simpson case opened up discussions about wealth, power, and the influence of public perception on the outcome of a trial. But beyond the legal proceedings and media frenzy, there are also personal tragedies at play in O.J.'s story. From his tumultuous marriage to Nicole Brown Simpson to his strained relationship with his children, we gained a deeper understanding of the impact that fame and success can have on one's personal life. Moving on, we delve into the tumultuous narrative of Charlie Sheen's career, a high-profile figure whose descent in Hollywood serves as a cautionary tale. Despite being a top-earning actor on the hit TV show 2.5 Men, Sheen's public persona took a nosedive amid personal turmoil and widely publicized controversy. Throughout his career, Sheen has been known for his charismatic and rebellious attitude, often playing similar characters on screen. However, it was his off-screen behavior that truly caught the attention of the public. In 2011, Sheen's erratic behavior became a topic of concern and speculation after a series of bizarre interviews and outbursts. He notably coined phrases such as winning and tiger blood, which became a viral sensation. As the media frenzy surrounding Sheen's behavior continued, his personal life also came under scrutiny. He had a history of substance and alcohol abuse as well as tumultuous relationships. In 2010, he was arrested for domestic violence against his then wife, Brooke Mueller. While we have all witnessed a multitude of surprising events at award shows over the years, few could have forecasted the incident involving Will Smith and Chris Rock at the Oscars. The altercation not only sent shockwaves throughout Hollywood, but also initiated a cascade of repercussions for Smith's career. The notorious slap seen around the world instantly transformed the public's perception of Will Smith from a beloved actor to a figure of controversy. The ramifications were swift, with projects put on hold and endorsements under threat as the industry grappled with the implications of his actions. The video footage of the incident spread like wildfire on social media and news outlets, leaving many shocked and outraged. The backlash was immediate, with fans expressing their disappointment and disbelief in the actor's behavior. The incident was a stark contrast to Will Smith's image as a family-friendly, charismatic, and well-respected figure in Hollywood. What drives a man who's already in the limelight to yearn for even more? For Jussie Smollett, it seems it wasn't enough to be famous. He aimed to be an icon, a beacon in the fight against racism. His persistent assertion that he's still the victim as he faced his jail sentence paints a picture of someone who truly believes they've transcended fame and become a symbol through their actions. Despite being well-known and successful in his career, Smollett's actions have caused a significant amount of backlash and scrutiny from the public. Many questions arise as to what drove him to allegedly stage a hate crime against himself. Perhaps it was the desire for even more fame and attention, or maybe it was a desperate attempt to elevate himself as a symbol in the fight against racism. Regardless of his motives, Smollett's behavior raises important discussions about privilege, responsibility, and the dangers of seeking a validation through victimhood. And last but not least, Britney Spears. Tragically, Britney found herself in a legal tangle that left her at a severe disadvantage, almost akin to being trapped by an antiquated system. For years, she navigated through a court-sanctioned conservatorship that essentially placed her under her father's control, stripping her of autonomy until its very recent termination. The hashtag Free Britney movement has sparked a conversation about the issue of conservatorships and their implications on an individual's life. While these legal arrangements are meant to protect individuals who are unable to make decisions for themselves due to physical or mental incapacity, they can also be abused and used as a means of control. In the case of Britney, her conservatorship was put in place following a series of public breakdowns and mental health struggles. However, many have argued that she was unfairly placed under the control of her father, who allegedly used the arrangement to not only manage her finances, but also restrict her personal life and career choices.